Apple in the after-hour session is about $10 away from a record high. So we are very still close to that high.
But we have to call.
Yeah,
we always caution, wait for the call. They could say a lot of other things. I mean, I think that it was a very good quarter, a lot to like, tiny miss in iPhones. Service is great, as Steve said, and obviously the margin there is, I don't know, triple or whatever. It very much adds to the gross margin average. And Greater China was actually, I thought, a little bit stronger. I think.
It was up 6.7%. And consensus, I mean, it was nearly $2 billion, like greater than what consensus was. Sorry to just.
Right. So I think put all that together, though, and at this price, you had to have a very good quarter. So is it good enough? I don't know. I mean, it's okay. The market's telling you, well, we don't know what yet to make of it. It wasn't a giant beat, maybe a little revenue, but EPS beat. But let's see what they have to say, and let's see how they I don't know that they'll give great forward guidance that we can really count on, but I want to hear the tone. I want to hear how they feel about business.
I guess my point about the record high was that you would think maybe that Apple would see a bigger sell-off, given it wasn't.
Given that it was already.
It wasn't a perfect quarter, and we were so close still to record highs.
I think that's a fair point. I think the fact that now services are 25% of overall revenue is great. I mean, that's the highest number I think we've ever seen. It would be greater if it was doing it on revenues that were increasing sequentially, but revenues, which is fine. I'm not going to I want to equivocate here, but I'll say this. In terms of valuation, it's an expensive stock given the metrics that we're seeing. Again, single-digit EPS growth, high single-digit earnings growth, high single-digit against a stock that's probably trading close to 30 times next year's numbers. So the question is it in the stock now? Now, I thought that was the case a while ago, and here we are. I think a logical place for the stock to trade down to sort of amplify what you're saying, is sort of that prior all-time high of like 176 or 177 or so, which isn't crazy. And in the context of what we've seen historically with Apple, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Courtney?
Yeah, I think realistically, and I think we've all echoed this, but Apple is pretty expensive. So I think at these valuations, realistically, one of two things has to happen. Multiples have to come down or earnings have to come up. And I think the reason the stock probably isn't really moving a lot right now is they get a lot of their business from slowing markets, right? PC demand and phone demand has actually been coming down. We saw that with Qualcomm. They were actually having some negative news there, which I think people were expecting that with Apple. But I think seeing how much their services is making up for that, I think that's actually really what people are liking to see here, and we're going to have to see how much. That in China is the big story with them. So the fact that they had beats there, even though they're missing in other places, I think is why people are not as negative on this right now.
It's interesting. I mean, we've had a lot of time to digest that Taiwan Semi, guide, and Apple's a 23% customer. And to your point, what we saw out of Qualcomm, and you'd say that they missed on iPhone, and it wasn't a great quarter, but they also know that in September they're going to introduce the iPhone 15. So I don't think it's the sort of thing that investors are not going to hit the sell button on that sort of miss. I agree on China; it's really good. I mean, if you're trying to figure out what the bugaboos could be, that would clearly be one of them. I'm sure the dollar weakness has probably been helpful to them. We know how much sales they get outside the U.S. But I'm kind of a guy on this one. I just don't know why you would buy this stock at 32 times here, given the sort of growth rates that we have. Obviously, that increasing, and Gene's going to talk about this, and I've heard him talk a lot about it, and he's been totally right on this, is like, if they can continue to grow this iOS installed base and the services continues to become a greater part of the revenue, and that's better for the mix shift with margins, like, that's the story from here on out. And anything else that they introduce, a new product that actually takes off the way AirPods did or something like that, is just gravy, So, and the advertising stuff, I hope Gene talks a little bit about that, because that's been a really good lever for Amazon. We know that their retail business is not particularly great, but look at all these companies that were not relying on advertising. Netflix is another one. It's a good business, especially if you have the eyeballs and you have the credit cards of the people there and everything like that. So to me, it's fine. I have a small put position in the Apple. Carter showed us a chart that it finally a perfect 45-degree angle. Okay, a perfect 45. It just broke it the other day. I don't think this is a good enough quarter to keep this stock going back towards those prior highs.